Hey, you. Have you ever had an awkward moment with Switchfoot? Today on the Heavens Metal podcast, we're going to talk about my most awkward moment with Switchfoot. So, Switchfoot was coming to town in Austin, Texas, and the 100th issue of HM Magazine had just come hot off the press. And the publicist and the band Switchfoot were taking the staff of HM Magazine out for dinner. It's Stubbs. Stubbs Barbecue Restaurant has a concert venue attached to it as well. And so we were really excited about hanging out with Switchfoot and seeing them live. And we were really glad that this new issue had just come hot off the press. In fact, we just, I think, got copies that day or the day before. So we were really proud to hand copies of this magazine to the band at the restaurant. And when we sat down, we eagerly passed these out. And John Foreman, the singer for Switchfoot, said, I was talking to my wife and it said, yeah, we're taking the guys from HM out to dinner. And she was like, what? You're taking them out to dinner after what they said about you? And basically, we had a feature on the band about their new album, and we had an album review of their new album. Their new album was called The Beautiful Letdown. And the writer of this review, a guy named Chris Rose, who was an intern at HM Magazine, a really cool indie rock snob kind of writer. And so I gave him the album to review, and here's what he said. Switchfoot, The Beautiful Letdown. There is one word in the title of Switchfoot's latest project that could accurately describe the entirety of the CD, and it is not beautiful. The Beautiful Letdown begins with the band just now discovering the creative differences between mono and stereo. He goes on to articulate his points, but basically he panned the album and said it was a letdown. And I remember John Foreman looked down at that. We had a rating schedule right here where the editor gave his rating of the album and the managing editor gave his rating of the album. And he looked at that and he looked at me and he pushed the magazine across the table and said, what did you not like about it? And at that moment, I was so wishing he would have picked on my managing editor because he gave it a 2. I gave it a 2.5. But I guess, since I'm the leader, I have to answer the questions. And so that was a very, very awkward moment. And to tell you the truth, I've never actually admitted this before, but I liked the album. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. And there was a staff meeting prior to this issue going to press with David Stagg, who was an intern at the time, and David Allen, who was managing editor, and myself. I don't think our advertising person was at this meeting. And I remember David Stagg basically mocking the song Gone. This is all I think of when I think of that album. Gone, gone. And I have to admit that I felt a little bit of peer pressure there to not rate the album as high as I might have personally done. So I actually took some of my personal feelings because we'd gotten advance releases of this album a few months before it came out. It was one of the longer runs of publicity leading up to an album release that I can recall, where we actually had copies of the whole album for a good few months before this came out. And I liked it, my family liked it, but I gave it a 2.5 because I was kind of not being completely brave, courageous, and honest. And I went with the crowd a little bit, and it stung me. It stung me hard. And that was one of those awkward moments in the history of HM Magazine. That night at the show, between songs, John Foreman exhibited some traits that show he was kind of rattled by the whole affair. He said, does anybody read HM Magazine? And didn't get a response, just kind of trailed off and left it at that and continued the show. But, we talk about it whenever I get together with the band Switchfoot. We kind of share a laugh for it now. When this was our 100th issue, which was a big moment because Derek Hess, the rock poster artist who has his work displayed in the Louvre Museum in France, actually did our cover art for us. But in the 25th anniversary issue, which was number 143, I believe it was, the 144, I actually put the Beautiful Letdown, you know, kind of where it needs to be, up in the top of the top Christian rock releases of all time. And let's see, where did I put it here? Number 11, 11th best Christian rock album of all time. Certainly not a 2.5. I'd probably have to say, you know what, given the fact that this album has lived over time, it deserved a 5 out of 5 rating, because that's the 5 rating was classic. And this album has stood the test of time, proved us wrong. It was basically a career album for the band, and continues to be that statement where the band just took a launch straight up and kind of really took their career to the next level. So congratulations to Switchfoot. You put out some great music, and you continue to do so. They are career artists who have continually gone back to the drawing board and brought us fresh new art and reflected the world around them in a ways that a good artist does. And as a Christian artist, they've been able to articulate what they've seen through a Christian worldview and been able to stretch beyond the small box of what is Christian art. You know, it's got to have a salvation message in it to be Christian. No, it doesn't. Art is a reflection of the created order around them and glorifies God by its very existence. And Switchfoot has been able to do that and have been able to basically represent us well. So, join the discussion.